Weekend. For the first time, I'm going to tell you about my weekend because my weekend has been a bit exciting. Yesterday, for the first time in a long while, I think for the first time since 2008, I was at the Accra Sports Stadium to actually support the Black Stars. They give us reason to celebrate by winning 5-0. But hey, the way you enter the stadium, it'd be like war. We'll talk about that later, maybe on the Traffic Avenue or later some other time. But hey, welcome to their chat. I'm super excited to be here because today or tonight is going to be an exciting night. I have the daughter of Kofi for Busia. Yes, the venerable ambassador Abna Busia would be in studio with us. We'll be having a nice and a beautiful conversation. And then also we'll be engaging some female reggae artists as well, who has also done very well for herself. Abna Busia is such a huge name and a personality that most people are super excited to engage with her. The first time I got to interact with her, I was like, oh my God. I read about her and I made a few more discoveries about her. But currently, she has an art exhibition going on at Sun City. You can pass through and get to experience it. I think it will end next week. But she'll be giving us all the details right here on their chat. You're welcome to the chat right here on Channel 1 TV with me, Ekow Koomson. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at PK_Koomson, Koomson spelled with a double N. Like we do it every time on the chat. I have a music break for you, but this time around, it's a surprise. Enjoy these 2 music videos. We'll be back to have more conversations right here on the chat.
Abla junga mansuma katla nuarieni kate wale te kuntare fanga Afrika te mala abla junga mansuma kate tare hakela kana ne dogenga kuntare tona Today I tell you my people shine like the bright star in the skies cause it's a brand new day for the best to play Today I tell you my people shine like the bright morning sunlight let the whole world know the future is bright. Africa, you been Katichang. Oh, mama. Oh, yeah. Yes. me mama, boy.
Menya bema opese oye me ho ade.
Congratulations.
Me are very okay.
Sofia cha.
What's it?
Medibone.
After benya krasa
Fear for when you are here. What's it?
ate sinipa na so aware no emma to ne emma to snap socket
Trusted by blood.
Looking for the latest buzz in Ghana's entertainment world? Welcome to Ghana Weekend, your ultimate destination for all things creativity and entertainment.
Stay in the loop with breaking news, exclusive interviews, and then insider stories from your favorite creatives and stars. From music, movies, fashion and art, lifestyle and culture, Ghana Weekend brings it all together. Get a daily dose of entertainment, discover new talents, and never miss out on the creativity that defines our vibrant culture.
Stay connected with us across all platforms. Follow us on Instagram with the handle Ghana Weekend, on X Ghana Weekend, on TikTok Ghana Weekend, at Ghana Weekend TV on YouTube for the latest in entertainment, travel, and everything Ghana. Don't miss out. Join the Ghana Weekend family today. Ghana Weekend, where entertainment meets creativity. Visit GhanaWeekend.com now.
You're welcome back to the chat right here on Channel 1 TV with me, Ekow Koomson. Confirm on all social media platforms at PK_Koomson. Koomson spelled with a double N. Ladies and gentlemen, we've never done this before, but we are going to do it for the first time. Did you guys enjoy that music video by Samini featuring the Soweto Gospel Choir? I loved it so much. And by the power vested in me, I have no power. But ladies and gentlemen, I just want us to enjoy it one more time, talking about Africa, talking about our heritage. We're in the Heritage Month of March, so we are going to enjoy Chana by Samini featuring the Soweto Gospel Choir one more time. Then right after that, we have an interesting, extensive conversation with Busia, the act collector, the ambassador, the poet, the educationist, everything all in one, and also the daughter of Kofi for Busia. Let's enjoy Chana by Samini featuring the Soweto Gospel Choir, and we'll be back to have a conversation.
Abla junga mansuma katla nuari yeni kate wale te kuntare fanga Afrika te mala abla junga mansuma kate tare hakela kana ne dogenga kuntare tona Today I tell you my people shine like the bright star in the skies cause there's a brand new day for the best to play Today I tell you my people shine like the bright morning sunlight Let the whole world know the future is bright. Africa, ya venka tichang. Oh mama, oh yeah, yeah. for me, mama. Boy. Abla junga mansuma katila nuarieni kate wale te kuntare fanga Afrika te mala abla junga mansuma kate tare hakela kana ne dogenga kuntare tona Today I tell you my people shine like the bright star in the skies cause it's a brand new day for the best to play Today I tell you my people shine like the bright morning sun let the whole world know the future is bright. Africa, you been Katichang. Whoa, mama. Whoa, yeah. Yeah. Whoa, mama. Whoa, yeah.
Oh, you're welcome back to the chat right here on Channel 1 TV with me, Ekow Koomson. That was such a beautiful song, or that is such a beautiful song. Brand new one from Samini featuring the Soweto Gospel Choir. And I am pretty sure this was shot somewhere in South Africa because I saw scenes from South Africa, I saw scenes from Kenya in there. So it's telling the true story of the African. And I really love it so much. A lot of people are asking what language was Samini singing in. I do not know, but I would love to find out very, very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is here and I have... I was actually addressing her as such, as she said, this is the first time somebody's addressing her as such. The Venerable Abna Busia, right here in the studio with me. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
I am honored. I am honored because, you know, you are, people here, I've heard a lot about you, but I'm sure most people haven't like been able to put a face to the name. So I am super honored because I had heard so much about you, but until I think last 2 weeks, that was the first time I got to meet you at the opening of the art exhibition, which is still ongoing.
Yes.
We'll talk about that, I think, latter part of everything, but it feels good. It feels good to be here. How's your weekend been?
Busy.
Busy?
You know, I am, well, there's a lot happening and you may not know it, but it's the centenary of Ifwa Sutherland.
Yes, full aware.
And the conference at the university at the end of the week, it's actually being co-sponsored by my old university.
Oh.
And so there are some professors from Rutgers coming and some actors going to perform scenes from her life and so on. I'm hosting them, so we're getting ready for that.
Oh, okay. Okay. And when is that happening?
That's on Thursday and Friday. At the Institute of African Studies in Legon. All day Thursday, all day Friday. The performance is Friday evening.
Friday evening.
Yes.
Anyway,
the centenary conference.
Can everybody be there or it's strictly by invite?
Both. I think it's open, but you have to register. They have a website. I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting to begin with that.
I just wanted to know how it is going. Yeah.
You can get in.
Perfect.
You can get in. I'll try and send you the information.
I'll be so glad.
Yeah.
I'll be so glad. But thank you very much for being in studio with me. I really don't know where to start with you because you're such an institution that
I
mean, talking about you would be endless, right? But let's start it off. Daughter of Dr. K.A. Busia.
Yes.
Tell me, I mean, growing up those days, being the daughter of a prime minister back then, how's it feeling?
Well, you know, the funny thing is I'm often asked that question, but I was really only the daughter of a prime minister for about 3 years of my life, right?
Oh.
I spent most of my life as the daughter of the leader of the opposition in exile, you know, and that's the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
When, you know, at the time of independence, Papa was leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
Then we went into exile round one under Nkrumah, the First Republic. When we came back, he became prime minister during the Second Republic. But as you know, republics 1, 2, and 3 ended in coup d'etats.
Yes.
So we were in exile again until Papa passed away. Then we buried him at home. He was given a state funeral, which is another long story. And then, as I say, we became persona half grata. We stayed out a lot for various reasons until the Fourth Republic.
Oh, so
Yeah.
almost all of you returned, I mean, after the Fourth Republic, everything settled?
Just
and then-
before, yes.
Just before.
Whenever I'm asked what I think is the most single important achievement of Ghana since independence, I say the Fourth Republic has held.
Yeah.
You know, we've just had our 9th election. If you
Yeah.
look around what's going on in Africa,
Africa, yeah.
you know, we in Ghana, we complain, and rightly so, we tussle and so on. But the fact is, we've just had our 9th
Election.
peaceful
Election. Under the Fourth Republic.
and the Fourth Republic.
Yeah.
That's a major achievement.
Ah.
They haven't been trouble-free, but the soldiers have not come back.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's very true.
as somebody who woke up one morning to the soldiers shooting bullets through the door, that the soldiers have not come back is, I think, a big mercy.
Yeah, and I'm sure anytime elections are going on, it gives you flashback.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway. But did you school in Ghana or you schooled
No,
outside of Ghana?
in England.
You schooled in England
Yes.
pretty much all your life.
Pretty much all my life.
All right.
Yes.
Now, most people do
I
not
don't.
know the poetic side of you, and also teaching side of you as well.
Yeah.
So what actually got you into poetry? Because then, I think before we got on, I was asking you, all the children, how many of you are into the creative space? Because your sister is into acting, you are into the poetry space. How was it like?
Well, I think we grew up in a household that appreciated the arts. We grew up, having family prayers, singing Methodist hymns. We grew up listening to the King James Version of the Bible. But I remember, for example, when we went to Mexico, because we spent 6 months of our childhood in Mexico before Papa went to Oxford, returned to Oxford. Papa was helping establish the Institute of African Studies.
And when you mean Papa, you mean
Sorry,
your dad?
my father, yes.
Yeah.
It's hard to call him Professor Busia. All right. But, what had happened was we had been at school, at an English-speaking school in Holland. But we were 6 months in Mexico before going to England, and we grew up outside Oxford, went to university at Oxford and so on. But in that 6 months, Father was concerned, of course, about our schooling. And so we were homeschooled so that we would not fall behind, so that when we got to England in January, we would be
able to catch
on
up.
track.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Father did was to buy a whole bunch of poetry anthologies. And he said to us, his children, you can choose any poem you like, but choose one and learn it, and you will recite it to me every Sunday after Sunday dinner. So we all grew up reading and reciting poetry, singing Methodist hymns, and with that appreciation of the written and spoken word, and then we went to a little English country village school where we had this crazy man for a headmaster who was also would read us stories at the end of every school day, would send us out into the field to look at something and then come back and say, okay, you've been looking at something. Either paint it, write a story, or write a poem about it. It was an extraordinary gift
Okay.
to be given as a child,
So would you say you've always had it, but then your dad's way of nurturing it and
was
bringing
nurtured,
it out
yes.
of you was him? Do you remember the poem you used to tell him every Sunday?
Oh, we had to have a different one.
So do you remember any of them? Which one do you remember?
Millionaires, presidents, even kings can't get along without everyday things. If you were president, king, or millionaire, you'd use a comb to comb your hair. That was a very long one. All's Clifton Chapel. This is the chapel here, my son, your father thought the thoughts of youth and heard the words which one by one the touch of life has turned to truth.
Does it bring back old memories of Papa sitting down and then you recited it to him?
Yeah.
And did you have to do it one after the other?
Oh yeah, we each had our space.
Okay.
You know, each of us every Sunday. He'd just pick us in random order.
Okay.
But you know, I remember it was before I published my first anthology, but I was working on it. When somebody asked me to do a poetry reading at a library, it was a library doing things about poems, that I realized, you know, my first book is called Testimonies of Exile.
Okay.
And I realized that the two poems that I remember Papa actually reciting that he loved were Alfred Lord Tennyson's Ulysses and The Lotus Eaters. And they are both poems about exile.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That didn't strike me until, you know,
until you had to
15
release.
years later.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. I
it.
thought, wow.
Wow.
So they were his solace too. Yeah.
Wow. Now, in that creative house, how many, so now you ended up becoming a poet, right?
Well, I think I ended up becoming a teacher.
So which one was leading, teaching or poetry?
Well, that's a difficult question. I've been writing poems since I was a child. But what I've done with my life is teach for 40 years.
All right. Now let's go into your teaching profession. Was it a passion that you had that you're like, okay, I mean, there is a space that I really want to go into? Because, you know, we always say, not everybody is a good teacher.
I love
So to teach for 40 years means that it's something you're passionate.
I loved it. I think it's a sacred vocation. I loved teaching. Yes,
Teaching is
I
a
did.
sacred vocation.
Yeah, it was for me anyway.
Yeah.
It was for me.
Yeah. What has been your most fulfilling part of teaching within this 40 years?
Realizing that you sparked something in your students. You can be teaching a class of 7 or 70, but the moment you realize somebody has got excited, you've changed somebody's life, or they've registered something important, it's so rewarding. You know, the lives you touch, the things you share. There's an engagement that takes place in the classroom. You know, you are sharing knowledge. You're not imparting. You're sharing. Your students give a different perspective. You can teach the same book one year and it'll be radically different the next year, depending on who's in the classroom and who speaks out and who responds in a certain way. That's the enduring thing about great literature, though.
Wow.
It lives on because it speaks to people differently. And you can always find people to engage with what's going on in the text, you know.
Right. Now, what subject were you teaching?
I really have three fields.
Okay.
I did my undergraduate work in English language and literature at Oxford. You know, we had to do English literature and 1,000 years of the development of the English language, which I still love. And then I did my doctorate in social anthropology. The same field, same faculty as my father taught in at Oxford. I did a study of literature, but what I was doing was images. I was looking at images of Africa in post-war popular fiction. Where do these negative images come from? How are they shaped? And what impact do they have on the society? So it was an anthropological study. And then when I got to Rutgers, the university I was at was one of the leading, in fact, I think it's one of the oldest programs in women's and gender studies in the country, in the United States, and the third oldest PhD program. So those were and I helped build that department. And the last thing I did before I retired or and became ambassador was to be chair of the Department of Women's and Gender Studies.
Oh, good. So, I mean, can you help us clarify this? Because, most people like to say he's an English teacher. Mm-hmm. Is it he's a teacher of the English language or an English teacher?
Well, those are two different things, you see.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly when we say he's an English teacher, it's a shorthand for saying they're teaching English literature.
Oh.
Language teaching and literature teaching are two different things.
Okay.
Two different skills, two different trainings.
Mm.
You have to know the basics of English language to teach the literature, of course. But teaching the language is different from teaching the literature. When you're teaching the literature, it is assumed that you know the language.
Oh.
It is assumed that you know that.
When you teach the literature, it doesn't necessarily mean that you know the language.
No, it's assumed you know the language, but it doesn't mean you know how to teach the language.
Oh.
Yes. Teaching language is a very different thing from teaching the understanding of the literature, the understanding of language. It's hard to explain, but to teach somebody, I mean, of course, in primary school, they're the same. You're teaching somebody to read and write, and they are simultaneous. But by the time you reach the university level, to teach language is a very different thing than to teach literature. You are having a different analysis, a different breakdown. It's the use of different skills and different understanding.
Wow. Did I just take you back to the classroom?
I guess so.
Wow.
Yes.
But do you miss being in the classroom? Do you miss, teaching, or you still teaching, but probably not
yes,
in
the classroom?
Yeah.
No, it's funny because I just, 2 days ago came off the ship. I was invited. There's this wonderful organization called Semester at Sea, run by the Institute for Shipboard Education. Just before I became ambassador, I actually did it for a whole semester. You sail around the world on a ship and you teach, and then every 3 or 4 days you get off and visit a country and take your students around the country and so on. Anyway, when you don't do the whole thing, they invite you. They have this thing called the Interport Lecture, where they invite an expert on the country. They fly you to the country before. In my case, it was South Africa this time.
Okay.
And you sail with them back to Ghana. So I was flown to South Africa
and then you sailed
to talk in different classes about Ghana. And then I got off in Ghana. And not having been in the classroom for 7 years, it was really very exciting. I realized why I had done it for 40 years.
Wow.
But it was nice because you're doing short individual things, I don't think I could go back to planning a 15-week course and grading 100 papers. I don't think I could do that.
So essentially you're saying that's like the difficult aspect of the whole teaching lifestyle that most people do not really
Yes, it's a
fancy.
lot of work.
Yeah.
Preparing a class is a lot of work. People don't realize, you walk into a classroom and on the first day at the university level, you've got maybe 1 or 2 pieces of paper, which is the syllabus. And you don't realize how much time and energy goes into that one piece of paper.
Yeah.
And if as a professor, that one piece of paper is not ready on the first day of class, you're in a lot of trouble.
Wow.
You're in a lot of trouble. I always treated my syllabus like a story. Like on the first day of class.
Of course, as a poet.
If I couldn't tell the story
Yeah.
of why we were doing these 10 or 12 books in the order in which we were doing them, then I was not ready for the semester.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, now as somebody who has been in the literature space for a very long time, which books would you say has been like your favorite?
Oh, that's an impossible question to ask. That's like asking a religious person which is your favorite book of the Bible. It depends on what's going on that day.
Yeah.
I can talk about the influences.
Okay.
And I can talk about people who changed my life by reading them.
All right. So can you tell us the influences, some of the books that had
Toni
massive
Morrison,
influence on you.
without question, the African-American Nobel Prize winner, Toni Morrison. Her books are extraordinary. The playwright August Wilson, of the contemporary people. But, you know, I had a background before I discovered them. It was exciting to discover them. But, you know, I went to Oxford and read English, so I fell in love with, you know, the metaphysical poets.
Yeah.
And it was a long time before I discovered black writers like everybody else. You know, I thought all great poets were dead white men. And I loved the works of some of those dead white men, like John Keats and T.S. Eliot's Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock is one of my favorite poems. But the books that have sustained me are the ones that I teach, the ones by contemporary black writers of Africa and the diaspora.
An example?
Oh, so many examples. I mean, there's some conventional classic ones like, I think, Achebe's Arrow of God, a masterpiece.
Yeah.
We All Love Things Fall Apart, which is deservedly a classic and has been written, translated into, I think, something like 85 or 90 languages.
Yeah, I heard and I was really impressed.
Yeah, no, really.
Yeah.
But I find Arrow of God, the nuances of a changing world that he maps out in Arrow of God. At that, it's really, you know, the generation of our parents' youth, really. And then he does it again for those of us who survived the coups, as it were, in Anthills of the Savannah. But then, you know, there is here in Ghana, you know, the dramatists we are celebrating, whose centenary we are celebrating, Ifwa Sutherland,
yes,
who gave us not only her works but Panifest, and the late Amata Edu, who was extraordinary in the diversity of what she wrote and the deceptive simplicity of her writing.
When you say deceptive simplicity, how do you mean?
I mean, she had a style that was accessible, but then knocked you in the solar plexus about what she was actually saying when you stop to think about it. You know, and there are some writers like that. The Barbadian writer Paula Marshall was like that too. You read her novels with a kind of facility, and then you pause and think, wow, you know, they really made you think for decades after you read their work.
I'm really enjoying this because, you know, as somebody who also studied literature in high school, but I'm part of the newer generation of literature. I mean, read books like The Gods Are Not to Blame, Ancestral Sacrifice, Things Fall Apart. Which other book?
Do you
Macbeth.
realize Things Fall Apart is over 60 years old now?
You don't say.
Oh, yeah. The reason I mentioned Arrow of God is because I actually wrote an article and a poem for one of the characters in Arrow of God on the 50th anniversary of Arrow of God, which is a later novel than Things Fall Apart. These are classics. They have survived. They have survived. They were written in the 60s, you know.
Now, when you take a quick scan of the writing culture now that we have, I mean, are we making progress? Are we stagnating? Are we retrogressing? Were the writers of old?
I think
we
have a few brave people who are holding the writing culture. But I think we need more readers. I remember years ago watching the Oscars when Steven Spielberg won the Irving Thalberg Award, which is, you know, a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I always remember his talk, his acceptance award, because he talked about being a movie junkie, how he watched films, how he snuck into that. And he talked about the excitement of making films and how it's collective. But then he had a line I've never forgotten. And he said, but to make a film, you cannot make a good film without a good script. And for a good script, you need a writer.
A good writer.
Yes, and he said, only a generation of readers can produce a generation of writers.
Wow.
Steven Spielberg at the Oscars, only a generation of readers can produce a generation of writers. And he is right.
That's actually very, very deep.
Very deep.
It's very deep because if you don't read, you wouldn't have the right inspiration to write.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even write and write well.
Yes. You get osmosis. You know?
Wow.
Like, you can learn to be a great storyteller by listening to great storytellers.
Yeah.
If nobody tells you stories, it's hard to become a storyteller.
Wow.
And from one of the great filmmakers of the 20th century, that was a very important line.
Very, very,
yes.
very, very. Now, let's get into your act collection.
Okay. Yes.
Because today we are learning so much, and I'm sure most people are learning a lot. You can send in a WhatsApp message on our WhatsApp number 020-4447-033. If you have any question for Ambassador Busia, you can drop the question. I'll ask her as we are getting to know more about her. I'm sure most people are watching this for the first time and are pretty stunned. Because I mean, hearing you and the names and the books you're mentioning is very inspiring, and also educating us on all these things is very good to know. But let's get into your act collecting. Like, when did this whole act collecting start for you? What actually pushed you to say, okay, I need to collect?
Well, you see, I actually never did that. You know, I was joking with my niece, Hada Busia Singleton, who actually curated the show.
Yeah.
As part of the show, there's an interview between the two of us. And she actually asked me, you know, that same thing. When did you start collecting, or what did you think, you know, when did you become a collector? And I had to tell the truth. I jokingly said to her, I really recognized I was a collector when her Auntie Safwa, you know, who owns the director owner of the La Foundation for the Arts, where the show is.
Yes.
She created a WhatsApp group for us to prepare the show. And she called the WhatsApp group The Collector. And I thought, oh, that's me. You know, I just love art. And, you know, you go to college and you put up postcards and posters because you want to beautify your space. But what happened was, my first year in the United States, I was at Yale. I was a visiting lecturer at Yale before I went to Rutgers. And that year, there was a wonderful art graduate student finishing his master's.
Yeah.
His name was Richard Powell. He's today very famous as a curator and art historian.
Okay.
But when he heard that I was going to Rutgers, he said to me very excitedly, oh good, you'll be close. You'll be able to come to my first show. Because he was having his first show at a place called the Catherine Street Gallery in Lower Manhattan.
Okay.
And he knew, you know, Rutgers was only an hour away, a train ride away. So with my first paycheck, armed with my first real life, important, real job paycheck, I went to my friend's art show. And I love to tell this story because a number of amazing things happened that day. I was looking at a wonderful lithograph when this familiar voice came and spoke over my shoulder saying, oh, now that's one of those paintings that makes you want to ask the artist what on earth was going on. And the voice was the voice of Chinua Achebe. It's the day I met Achebe, who was the first person ever to publish my poetry. He asked for it that day. We had a conversation and he asked me to send him my poetry on that day. And I met him looking at the first piece I ever bought. I bought that piece. And I've told a lot of people who've come to the gallery this story because I really couldn't afford that piece, but I really wanted it. And
how much was it?
Well, in those days, it was $250.
How many years ago?
That was 40 years ago. Yes, it was a lot of money in those days. But the thing was, it wasn't too much. If it had been $500, I wouldn't have had a conversation. But $250 was within dreaming possibility. And what saved me was my friend. Because I wasn't going to buy it. I said, I can't afford it, even though I was...
How much did you have at that point?
Well, that's exactly what he asked me. He said, Abby, we're both hungry together. How much can you put down? And I gave him $50.
And she gave you $200?
No. I gave him 50.
Okay.
And he let me pay him whatever I felt like whenever I could. And then when I'd finished paying, he mattered it and sent it to me with a note saying, thank you for buying in my first show.
Oh.
You see, and it taught me a lot because I realized a number of artists and galleries will talk to you. I mean, there are things that I've seen that no amount of negotiating was going to help. It was not going to be within my budget
Yeah.
But something like $250, if I have 5 or 6 months, I can manage it. But the important thing about that story was his willingness. That he was prepared to let me do that.
Wow.
Was a very big lesson.
So would you then say that was the beginning of you now piecing or collecting from different places?
Yes, because what that did for me was that it let me know when I saw a piece, I could at least have a conversation. And so I started. And the thing is, I didn't always collect black women, but I started that focus quite early on. And nobody was interested in the works of black women artists. I have some people in my collection today who I certainly couldn't afford to buy today. But when I bought them, sometimes it was a silent auction and nobody bid against me. I mean, nobody bid against me for people who today are in museums all over the world. But I bought them early.
Wow. But what would you say was the reason why people were not paying attention to black female?
Do they pay attention to us about anything? I'm serious.
Tell me more.
No, I mean, it's not only black. First of all, when you think of art history, when you think of literature, when you think of history, who are the names we grow up with? There are almost never any women there. There are almost never any women there at all. I mean, I was fortunate at the university I was at to be amongst a group of people who cared about women. We're one of the oldest women's and gender studies, one of the oldest women's colleges in the country. Let's begin there. We had a library that specialized in collecting women and an art historian who collected women. So I was initiated, if you like, into this world quite early. But really, go back and look at the syllabi from your literature courses. How many of them are women?
Very few, actually.
Yes. So women are always underestimated, underrecognized, underrepresented. And then we're talking Africa. Who cared about African art? And when we cared about African art, it tended to be classical African art, not contemporary African art. And then when it's contemporary African art, it's the male artists. Who was thinking about women artists?
But thankfully we have
I'm
you.
shocked, for example,
Yeah.
Marigold Akufo-Addo. I am shocked by the number of people in Ghana who don't even know she's an artist. Don't even know she's an artist. And she's been an artist living here in Ghana, doing all her work here in Ghana for the last 50 years. Why is that? Why, you have to go abroad to be recognized or something.
True.
And we have extraordinary women artists. I'm very proud that I have a very early Patrick Baywong. She's got a new show up and she's gone into massive, very different, environmentally conscious stuff. But I went to one of her early shows, and I'm fortunate that I managed to go to the exhibitions of people and find them early, or else, they give their stuff for silent auctions and nobody notices and bids against me and so on. But no, really, people don't think about what women do.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this, because then we are thankful to have you, who is now, do I say blazing the trail, or championing for women art to be recognized. But just on the side, right now, how many art pieces do you have in your collection? Do you know the number?
Not really. I know there are about 80 on display.
80 on display?
Yes.
But how many have you collected?
Probably closer to 120.
120?
Yeah. There are some missing, and there are no men, very few men. I think there are only 2 men up for different reasons. But I started like everybody else with male artists, but they're not. It's Women's History Month, okay? Yeah. We made the decision that we were showing women.
This month is also, 8th March was International Women's Day. So
yes, exactly.
It was very good.
Yes.
But, quite a number of people are watching us right now, and there are a few messages here that we'll talk about before we go into the exhibition that's going on the whole of this month.
Yes.
Finding Home. I love it. I love the name, actually.
Finding Home.
Finding Home.
Yes.
I really love it, because then it's like, we're bringing it back home. Yes. We are getting to enjoy it. But pictures on our screens are pictures from the
opening, is it?
Yeah, the art exhibition that's currently ongoing at Sun City on the South La Kajano, close to Kingdom Books. It's free. You can walk in, get to see her pieces, her collections. And I was really intrigued when you mentioned that I didn't do most of the pieces here. I didn't do them, and you showed me the one that you did, and I was like, wow.
Let's get this right.
Yeah.
Okay, not most pieces. I am not a visual artist.
Yeah.
Okay, everything except one. Yeah. I have literally only ever done one.
That's what I'm saying.
Piece in my entire life. Yeah. Yes, and it's there because it's an homage to my mother.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's nice. Anyway, so this one says, sorry, I love this woman, Ambassador Abnapokua Adompim. Yeah. Busia. Yes. That's a full name?
Yes.
Wow. Oh, so that's what the PA means?
Yes,
oh, okay.
Pokua Adompim.
Ah, nice. She's down to earth in her career. Oh my God. Tell me the word down to earth, and I'll show you somebody who personifies it. Please ask her about her thoughts on Ekow Koomson's books.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, like.
Do you need water?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll get you water.
Like so many of us, we grew up on Ekow Koomson's books, which I think are phenomenal. I have to say, I met Ekow Koomson, and I told him this. I was shocked to meet him, because in person, he's this very gentle, soft-spoken, gentleman.
Yeah.
His books are so fierce. They are frightening. Yeah. And I told him that. I told him, I found, for example, Why Are We So Blessed? Almost impossible to read. I loved his The Healers, so what do you want to know? I think everybody should read Ekow Koomson, and preferably, he's one of those writers that you learn a lot by reading his books in order. Oh. You can't say that of everybody. You can say it of Toni Morrison, and I think you can say it of Amma. Read his, if you can. Read any book you can get hold of.
Yeah.
But if you can,
read it in order.
If you read them in order, you can see
his thought process.
The steeliness of the things he engages with and how he's working them out.
Wow.
You know.
Anyway, so there's a question here from George in Ebri. He's watching us right. He says, a question for Ambassador Busia. For those of us who grew up not in a reading community but have kids that we want to encourage to become readers, what would be her advice to us?
Begin by reading to them. Read out loud something you love to your children. Find the time. You see, I spoke about the little English country school we went to.
Yeah.
We had a headmaster who the last 15 minutes of school would close the school, have all of us together, and would read to us. It was usually a minor classic written by a local writer, so we would recognize the places and so on. At home, we used to have Sunday, we'd go to church on Sunday, but we'd have family Sunday gatherings, and Papa would choose one of us, we'd have to read from the Bible or read the hymn or what have you. But if your children don't have a reading culture, it is sometimes hard to learn to read on your own. So read to them, or we live in a day of books on tape.
Yeah.
Sit.
Audiobooks.
Get an audiobook, but listen to it with them.
Okay.
Don't just put a tape on, or these days it's not tapes, whatever it is, click the digital and walk away. Sit with them and enjoy it with them. There's nothing like hearing stories to make you want to read them.
Wow, that's good. Now this one, oh my God, somebody, okay, I think we should do this later when we're about to leave. Somebody says, please tell Madam Busia that I'm a lover of her artworks. I love literature so much, but I'm currently a geographer. Please tell her to give us analysis of the dilemma of a ghost. Can you do that briefly before we go talking about finding home?
The dilemma of a ghost was like decades ahead of its time. That's why, yes, decades ahead of its time. The issues it raises are still with us.
Relevant.
To understand the dilemma of a ghost, put yourself in the place of each character each time you read it. Because every character has a point. Every character has a point. And we are still negotiating the issues of a dilemma of a ghost.
We are still negotiating the issues of the dilemma of a ghost.
Yes.
I mean, that's been good. I think we can go on and on and on and on and on. We can just be having conversations, but let's zero in on finding home. I want to get it right. I think you have the book here. Can you please
the
pass me
Arts
the
of
book?
Black Women in Their Diasporas.
So it says Finding Home, the Art of Black Women in Their Diasporas, from the collection of Ambassador Abna Pokua Adompem Busia. It feels good. Now, this was created by your niece, Hada Busia Singleton.
Yes.
And
My
also
sister's
co-created.
daughter.
Yes, your sister's daughter, and was co-created with Zara Faye. And thankfully, we have Zara Faye in studio. So, I mean, Director, just run us through some of the pictures that we have from the current exhibition that is going on. I mean, I'll be talking to some of them. So we have Zara Faye, who will be joining us on set very soon. So Zara Faye will be joining us on set. So there you have Zara on there as well. I mean, a few people in there admiring and appreciating the pieces that we have. I was there myself. I loved every single bit of it. It was very beautiful to see. And that's, I think...
Hada, you can see the Zara and Hada with the white. That was my curators, that last slide.
So can you go back a bit?
Where are they?
A quick one. She just wants to show
after,
us.
Oh, no.
Go forward.
No, you only need, go forward.
Yeah, I think it will be.
Next
so after
one,
this.
I think. Yes, stop,
pause here.
please there.
Pause.
Pause there.
All right.
There's my sister.
No, go back. Okay,
yes.
Pause.
So there's my sister, Hada, who's the curator, Zara.
Yeah.
So it's Eunice who's missing. And then that was the conversation. So it's Madam Marigold Akufo-Addo, I'm hidden, Marigold Akufo-Addo, Fetrik Bewung, and Odile, why am I blocking out on her last name? Tevier, Odile Tevier of the Nubuke Institute, Foundation.
Wow.
That was the conversation we had. So they're just introducing. All right, you can go forward now. I just wanted to point out that that was the conversation of the first.
But the lady in the microphone is your sister. With the microphone is your sister.
Yes.
Akusia
Yes.
Busia. There as well.
And you asked about the title.
Yes.
Finding
So
Home.
I mean, finding home, the art of black women in their diasporas. What influenced this title? I mean,
well, it's interesting. There were multiple layers, as you pointed out. I initially was thinking about what is it that
go ahead.
that bound these works together. And I began to see that the sense of Africanness as home, either claiming or lost or reaching for something, was a common theme. But what really happened was I then was talking to Hada, and something extraordinary happened. You see, the collection is actually older than Hada. I started collecting before Hada was born.
40 years ago.
Yes, and Hada is not 40.
40, yeah.
Yes, Hada's only 28.
Yeah, Zara is also not 40, the co-creator.
Which was the actually wonderful thing for me.
Okay.
That the young women who worked on it were all of them under 35, all right? This is important to me because what it means is that they were looking at something dear to me, but with very different eyes. They were appreciating, they were passionate, but their eyes were so different. And that's what happened when I was talking to Hada, because first of all, she'd seen the collection grow. But then when she came to university, she happened to come to drama college at the university I was at.
Rutgers.
She made sure I had nothing to do with it. She would not let me have anything to do with her applications because I'd been there so long. She had to. But she got into Mason Grove School of the Arts at Rutgers. So she lived with me. And then I was appointed ambassador and I left her in the home. In a sense, it became her home. And she was talking to me about how she'd engaged with the works and especially how her art school friends came in and responded to all this art by artists they knew on the wall. And, you know, she talked about, first of all, watching me talk about it, and then the conversations they had talking about it. And something went off in my mind, because I had assumed that, you know, it's my collection, I'm going to curate, right? And then we thought, no. So I said, take it over. And I said to everybody, Hada's vision runs the show. And she wanted to recreate a sense of home. A sense of what it'd been like to live with these pieces. But she did extraordinary things, like there's one, you saw it, that bust of me. Now, you know, if I had been in charge, I'd have displayed it upright like it's been since it was made, right? She had it
lying down,
looking at the exhibition, lying down in a kind of sacred contemplative space with the candles at the feet and so on. It was an extraordinary, there were touches like that, you see, that she did that I thought people responded to, everybody noticed it, and they made it was a humbling experience for me, actually. It was a wonderful.
That's good. Now, I see here, Hada also has a few pieces in there as well.
She has a piece.
One piece here, Hada Busia single thing. Ghana, technique, all of that. And it's a very interesting one. I really wish I could actually get her, but she's also not in town.
She's not in town. You'll have to come and have a conversation, a chat with her.
That's a good one. That's a good one. But Zara, I mean, being a co-creator on this. I think before the whole exhibition went on, you were here, we spoke about it. Now we are seeing it in action. How has the experience been from when the idea was conceived, shared with you, and what you've done so far, pretty much the entire month of March?
Okay, that's an interesting question. I remember when Safwa, who I think you're related to Safwa somehow, or close family friends.
Family friends,
who owns LAFA. And LAFA is known for inspiring and supporting creativity of young Ghanaians and the young minds. So it's an art foundation, but it's especially Safwa. She's very, very passionate about utilizing whatever's going on in LAFA to increase visibility as far as like artistry is concerned and creativity is. So when Safwa called me and said, oh, we have the great ambassador Busia who's coming in, and she's a collector, so we want to showcase her collection, and she's coming along with Hada, and I would love for you to also be a part of the program and co-curate. I was very honored, first of all, because I had heard of her, but just before I met you actually was when I heard about you, so I knew very little about her. So for me, the whole experience has been a learning curve, you know. I remember saying to her the first day she came with Eunice, who was curatorial assistant as well, and Eunice worked a lot on the exhibition, and Eunice is her PA. I remember seeing the catalog, a soft copy, and I immediately got a bit intimidated because half of the artists in there, I had no idea who they were. So I was telling her the other day that it took some of my other friends who were veterans, I would say, in the art space coming in and also being humbled, being like, who's this? And I said, okay, I feel the same way. But for me, it was a bit of a personal exhibition because of the whole idea of home. As you know, I'm not from Ghana. And it was exploring home and of black women in the diaspora. So a lot of it were women who have had experience living on land that were not their own. And so for me, it was from that perspective. So it was interesting seeing Hada's perspective because Hada grew up with the pieces. So for Hada, it was, she knew everything. She knew, you know, because she lived with them, she grew with them. She even confessed that she was curating while in the house, that at times when she had traveled, she moved things moved things around, you know.
So
she had moved things around.
It's safe to say that she has been living this experience.
Oh, yes.
Pretty much all her life to see it happen.
Yes, so and even the piece, the head that she's speaking of, which is the clay piece that was hand-built, and you could see the fingerprints, there's something very, very authentic about that piece, the imperfections. And I remember when Hada came up with the idea of putting it there, she was like, this is how things were in Auntie's house. This is where people sat on this pew and they viewed the art piece from there, and she wanted to create something or recreate something like that. So it was interesting that for her, it was a home that she had grown up in, and for me, it was exploring home and what home is. So there were questions that had come up. She also had, like, you know, her quotes, her poetry everywhere. There were questions that came up that were very confronting, not just from the perspective of while you were interpreting the art pieces, but just as her poetry intersected with the pieces as well. And it was an emotional exhibition, and the month of March has been very interesting. Even for people who've been coming in. People have come in, they've cried looking at the exhibition, you know, especially some African American women who have come in. They've been very touched by the exhibition, so it's been an honor. My highlight on the opening night, I think I was telling you when I was standing with you, and then I saw this young little girl who was reading literally what was written on the wall. I have a picture of it.
I was stunned.
And I'm like, I can bet you she doesn't really understand what is going on, but she's being appreciative.
She was, I almost cried.
Yes, it was emotional.
That was a wonderful moment.
Yeah.
And you know, even, you know, I thought of having a poetry reading, which we will, on the 29th, the last day. I'll be reading my poetry at 6 p.m. But actually putting it on the walls and having phrases from my poetry scattered about, that again was Hada's idea, which I would never, ever have thought of. I would never have thought of displaying the words, you know, in that manner and using the words in that way at all, you know.
That's good. Now, the portrait you're talking about, I've been able to capture it in the book. It's by E.T. Harris.
Oh, yes, yes.
So I don't know if camera can zoom in, but that's it.
Yes.
E.T. Harris. It says portrait of Abena Busia. It was the country was in the U.S.
Yeah.
1976.
Yes.
Was it? Is that when it was created?
Yes.
So there you have it.
Can it zoom?
Yeah, they'll zoom in. They'll be able to capture it.
Yeah.
So E.T. Harris, portrait of Abena Busia. It was created in the U.S.
Yes.
It was created in the year 1976.
Yes.
So that's how many years?
I was my junior year. Well, wow, it's. We don't want
Almost
to
40
be able
years
to
ago.
count. Yes, almost 40 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
39
years ago.
Yes. It was an extraordinary thing. You know, I have to say,
Yeah.
all the works in the gallery are by black women except the 5 portraits of me. There are 5 portraits of me. There are more portraits of me in my collection, but there are only 5 in the show. And the only things not by black women are those 5 portraits.
Okay.
And that model, I did a junior year abroad back, clearly before the flood, when I used to walk from one classroom to the dining hall at a regular time. And one day, this woman came up to me and said, "We take the same path at the same time, twice a week. I've been seeing you twice a week for several weeks now. I'm an art major. I would like to do your portrait." That was when I met her. I didn't know her before. She came up to me and said, "Please, I've been looking at you for weeks. Can I do your portrait?" And it was the most uncanny thing to walk in and to have this oblong piece of clay, you know, the life size. And she sits me down and she starts talking to me and her fingers are doing this. And within 10 minutes, I could see it was my face. Wow. It was the most, my face emerged out of the wet clay, you know, and these fingers just, you know. She took that piece as part of her portfolio and cast it in bronze in Rome.
Wow. Now, tell us, how was the feeling in that moment? Can you remember reliving that moment?
Oh, yes. That moment was it was uncanny. It was strange. I mean, it was like watching yourself being born. I mean, you know, 1 minute you're talking and there's this lump of clay and you're trying to get to know this stranger and you're watching her fingers. And you're watching her fingers. And her fingers are doing, and you realize they're not arbitrary. She's actually tracing your face without touching your face. Yeah.
Zara, it's been a long month of this exhibition. Can you tell me how the success of it has been so far? Because for me, in my own estimation, I've been following it even on social media. So the fact that I've not been there, I've been living vicariously through social media, watching everything, experiencing everything. Tell us the experience from when it was launched till today. Because I think it's even on as we speak now.
It is.
All right, good.
And thank you for asking that, because I have been at the gallery or the exhibition space while it's been ongoing. So I have had the honor of seeing people's reaction, because opening night, it gets very busy. And I'm somebody who, when I go to exhibitions, even for opening nights, I like to take my time to go back so I can take in the pieces. So being there and seeing people come in and out daily and seeing the reactions that they're having, it's been interesting. But for me, I have to confess that the most interesting aspect has been the children coming in and having the tours and seeing the exhibition. She had spoke briefly to how Hada had created a piece in there, but she created that when she was very young. And that piece, there's actually, if you see the exhibition, there's a piece that Hada's mom also made around the same age as Hada, and neither of them had any prior information about it, and created almost, not exactly the same piece, but almost, there was a lot of similarity in it.
Wow.
And I think that nurturing these young creative minds is really the soul of what LAFA is trying to do. But I think Madame Busia, as a teacher, I think she's very passionate about young people. So for me, seeing how the young kids have been coming in, having all these inquisitive, questions and wanting to buy some of the pieces and asking if they can come and exhibit. And part of me sometimes I feel like creatives in Ghana, there's a hopelessness sometimes, if we're honest, that hangs in the air because they feel like their creativity is not being supportive. Things are changing, but I see that being revived in the children, and the hope is alive. And that's been the most powerful and profound part of the exhibition for me.
Wow.
That's a wonderful answer.
Yeah, I am impressed because pretty much all the art I'm seeing here, I actually got to see. It's there, but who is Ama Na Moko Busia?
I wonder who that is.
Niece.
Oh, also your niece?
Yes.
And a different niece.
Oh.
In the exhibition, my mother has 2 pieces. My sister has one. I have one. My sister's daughter has one. My elder brother's daughter has one. My eldest brother's granddaughter has one.
Okay, so I see your piece here.
Yes.
Abna P.A. Busia.
That's me.
I want to mention the full name. Abna Pokua Adompim Busia. Title is Conjuring Mama.
Mama, yes.
It was, I think it was done in 2012.
Yes.
Wow.
Very powerful.
That's
and
really...
I just want to speak a little bit to her niece's piece because when we were working on the exhibition, I had my suspicions as far as the pieces that would be the most popular pieces. So Reaching Mutt was an obvious one. Tina Allen's piece. I mean, a couple I thought would be obvious favorites. But one that snuck up on me was The Ancestors, which was and that was her graduation piece, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm very proud of having about 5 graduation pieces in the collection too. But that was my niece's graduation piece.
It's called The Ancestors.
The Ancestors.
Let me see if I can pick it out from the book. But you can go ahead and talk about it.
Well, they're in alphabetical order, so it should be close to me.
Okay.
No, that's the Amanamo that you spoke about.
Where? No, it's here. So that's Marigold.
You just read her name.
Yes. Okay.
You just read her name.
Right. So, okay, so there you have it. Oh, okay, The Ancestors.
Yes.
White and black, holding a bottle.
Yes.
The blue.
Okay.
Holding the blue bottle. Yeah.
So that was a graduation piece.
That's her graduation piece.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really good. And I am super, super excited. But a lot more people want this conversation to continue because of the messages I'm getting on WhatsApp. So we'll go for a quick break.
Right.
When we return, we get to go a bit deeper into some of the pieces we have here. Some of the people you've worked with, the people you've collected from, have some of them been here to actually see what is going on. And where the exhibition is happening, when is it ending, and all of that.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this break. I am enjoying myself. I'm having a good time. I hope you are too. You can drop us a message on our WhatsApp number 0204-447-033. And any question you have for Abna Pokua Adompim Busia, we'll be glad to answer that. We'll be right back after this break.
Life is a celebration of moments. Big and small.
The sun is scorching, I'm feeling the heat.
With Piva Drink, every moment becomes a refreshing celebration. From the beach to your home, in every corner of your world, Piva Drink adds a burst of refreshment.
Give me Piva cocktail and tangerine.
Celebrate every moment with Piva Drink. Refreshment for every occasion. Piva Drink, a taste you will love.
P for Piva.
This advert is FDA approved. Here's Kwame and Yao. After hours of planning, both have locked in the same perfect multi-bet. Big win for United, over 1.5. And both teams to score in the London Derby. But who could have picked Leicester over City? Or a high-scoring game at the Bridge? There's nothing worse than having your perfect multi-bet missing. But there's nothing better than having it saved. Bet saver. Win, even if your bet misses.
You're welcome back to the chat right here on Channel 1 TV with me, Ekow Koomson. We are having a conversation with Ambassador Abna Pokua Adompem Busia. I know most of you didn't know this, you're discovering this for the first time. And apparently, she loves her name as much as I love her name. So, yeah. I mean, but what is it about a name that makes you so, like, everybody loves their name, by the way, but it looks like your love for your name is like a notch higher?
Well, two things.
Yeah?
Well, first of all, I love the name. I mean, it's a real blessing name. Pokua was my paternal grandmother. But Adompem, I mean, to be born and for your parents to name you one who loves thousands. Why would you lose that name?
Oh, Adompem.
Adompem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So to love thousands. Oh.
Yes. And then you see, in the mechanized United States, they always wanted you to drop. For some reason, they seem to think people only have a right to one middle initial. Yeah. And so I became quite militant about keeping my second middle initial, you know.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful name. I think it's a wonderful thing to call your daughter.
Yeah.
Yes. But you know, an extraordinary thing happened.
Tell me.
I told you I was just come back from the semester at sea.
Yes.
And I was with a class, and we had a tour guide taking us, you know, from the ship to the university for the class. We were going to the School of Performing Arts. It was a music class. We were doing dance and
still on the ship.
And drumming. No, well, the class came off the ship.
Okay.
To when we came to port. Had a wonderful, extraordinary class in dance and drumming at the School of Performing Arts. But by coincidence, the tour guide was doing his usual thing of, you know, from Accra to Tema, just giving a very, very good debrief on the history of Ghana. And so he mentioned the rulers and the military coups and blah, blah, blah. And we were going to the university, so he mentioned my father had not only been prime minister, but had been a professor at the university. And he just said, just out of the blue, and I learned that, you know, Professor Busia had a daughter called Adompem, and I like that name, so that's my daughter's name. And my friend sort of looked at him and said, that's her. And he was so amazed. He was talking about me. He named his daughter.
He was talking about you, but he didn't know you were right with him.
We'd never met. It was a wonderful moment. He was just talking about having named his daughter after the daughter of Professor Busia, and because she had a lovely name, and I was sitting right in front of him, literally right in front of him. It was a wonderful moment. This was just 4 days ago, 3 or 4 days ago.
A few days ago, because I remember I messaged you were like, oh, I'm on the high seas.
Yes. I love that phrase. You can tell I did literature.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. But I mean, Zara, where is this exhibition happening? Because my director is like literally screaming into my brain. Where is this exhibition happening? What time does it happen? And I mean, who are the people that can be there? And is it actually free to be there?
Yes, it's free. So you're free to visit the La Foundation. And it's on the La Road, just where Sun City Apartments is, on the same building, just that it's downstairs. So you can't actually miss it. It's literally on the ground floor. It's literally on the,
and it's very well branded.
On the roadside. Exactly.
That's one thing I like.
It's got great visibility.
Windows.
Yes. I love
Anybody who says they can't see it,
you can't miss
a bit of a problem.
Yes. And Lafa is closed on Mondays.
Okay.
Now we open on Sundays between 12 and 3 p.m. And between, Tuesday and Saturday, we open from 10 p.m., I believe, till 6 p.m. But
10 a.m.
10 a.m. rather.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting that. Yes.
To 6 p.m.
To 6
So from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., anybody can walk in
yes.
and then just, have a whole 360 experience.
Exactly.
360, 40 years experience.
Exactly.
Collections.
And if they're lucky, she might be there to give them a guided tour, because she tends to also come into the space quite a lot. So,
all right.
But I'll be there.
Now, I'll just randomly mention some of these artists, and if you've had any interaction with them, you can also let us. Elizabeth Cutlet Mora.
Oh God, I wish I had had an interaction with her.
Oh,
She's now deceased, but she is the person I had in mind when I said to you I was fortunate, and it never ceased to amaze me that nobody was interested in black women artists. Elizabeth Catlett, one of the most important African-American women sculptors of the 20th century. The Moras, she married a Mexican muralist, so Mora is her married name.
Oh, okay.
But at the time I bought that, she was already famous as a sculptor, had already been working for over 40 years.
All right.
I got that piece in a silent auction and nobody bid against me.
You seem to love silent auctions a lot.
They work. They've worked for me.
This is wonderful.
All right. Anyway, your final words before we go. It's been a fun time with me. I've really loved this conversation so much. But your final words before we go.
Well, the exhibition is on for another week. It closes a week today. And as our final act, we've got a wonderful lineup. I mentioned my colleagues who are coming for the Sutherland.
Yes.
They're coming to see it on that day.
Oh.
But at 6 o'clock, I'm doing a poetry reading. And I'll be reading some of the poems on the wall and the poems inspired by it. And Hada is a curator also of Cinema Bintu, which some people might know, which usually takes place on Thursday nights at Palm Moments. But we are having a Cinema Bintu screening at 8 o'clock on that day.
Oh.
So there are those two things going on, the poetry reading at 6 and the Cinema Bintu
on the final day.
8, on the final day. Okay. It's our kind of swan song. So please feel free to come along.
All right. We will be there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Abna Pokua Adompim Busia, and also Zara F for being here with us. It's been a fun time. I've really enjoyed myself so much. And also thank you to you for, staying with us and enjoying this conversation with us. It's been a fun time. I've really loved being here with you. And I'll catch you next week right here on The Chat. My name is Ekow Koomson. You can find me on all social media platforms at PK_Koomson. Have a great weekend.
Heritage is all we have, and as the years unfold without proper archiving, we may lose it. From the days of oral storytelling and now to having a whole library filled with hundreds of thousands of books to help us remember our heritage. Paul Ninson, an archivist, photographer, founder and executive director of Dikain, will be our guest.
This is the last clock of Kwame Nkrumah in Kokri, Guinea, in his office, his last office.
It's heavier?
Yes. This is Kwame Nkrumah's last pen in his office in Kokri, Guinea.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
A Accompanying him will be Ancient Ghana Band, who took us back home to our indigenous music. Join Firma Edunyame this Sunday on the Upside Down Show at 7 p.m. prompt, only on Channel 1 TV.
Where politics meets power, where the tough questions are asked, welcome to Face to Face. Every Tuesday at 9 p.m., join Umaru Sanda Amadou as he takes you face to face with the key players shaping the future of our nation.
I lost over $10 million at the trade fair.
You had a fight with the management of trade fair?
I don't have a fight with them. I just deplore the way they went about what they did.
Let's talk about the chief prosecutor of the state at the time that you were being prosecuted, Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, the Attorney General.
Yes. I think he was directed to jail us.
By who?
By the system.
Boko has been a failure for your government, though.
Can't be a failure.
You have not solved it.
No, you are not praising them, the previous government for solving Yende, which was even a more difficult case.
It's quite obvious that from these votes, the people felt that let's just let you go.
So they were disappointed
in us.
You are essentially the worst government in the Fourth Republic.
I don't know how you are doing that. If you based on the indicators.
Yes, based on the number of people who refuse to come and vote for you.
If that is your analysis, then why not?
No filter, no boundaries, just the truth behind the headlines. Deep, bold, and unflinching. Face to Face with Umaru Sanda Amadou airs on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. only on Channel 1 TV, where politics gets real.
This March, we invite you to splash in the pool of cultural expressivity and soak yourself in the celebration of indigenous authenticity in our Heritage Month. Join us for the Heritage Month launch on Friday, February 28th, as we kick off a month of unforgettable experiences. Pack your bags for the Heritage Caravan, a week-long adventure across Ghana from March the 2nd to the 9th. Discover the beauty and history of our land. Savor the flavors at the Back to Your Village Food Festival, a culinary extravaganza on March 29th and 30th. Taste the essence of Ghana. Tune in to the Heritage On Air series on 97.3 CDFM and Channel 1 TV. Feel the rhythm of our music, journey through our religious history, and indulge in indigenous Ghanaian food. Join us to celebrate our heritage this Heritage Month, where every moment is a story. Only on Channel 1 TV and 97.3 CDFM.